You know, everybody thinks of, you know, the number 7 as lucky or, you know, having to do with all these, you know, divine things or you know, spiritual things. And the meaning for the name for me is dynamic, positive energy personified. That's what 7 means. But at the time, it was more like, you know, that's my tag, you know, like this is who I am. When I went to school initially, I was going to school to be a fashion illustrator. My mom always had these Ebony Fashion Fair magazines like laying around, so I would get these magazines and go through the little fashion show section. They would be something I'd never seen before, and they would just look real artistic to me. So I either wanted to be a comic book illustrator or a fashion designer. I started tagging 92 when I came up with the Nigel name, but 93 is when I really like picked up a spray can and started experimenting. I was even contemplating like just writing Eric, like tagging Eric. Like I did, this was one of my first graffiti characters I came up with. And I was like, you know, drawing my name, my regular name out, you know, in like letter forms and stuff back then, cutting out Jet Magazine Beauty of the Weeks, putting them in my little sketch magazines. Yo!
I met Seven almost about 30 years ago now. He was definitely further, you know, in the skill department than I was at that point in time. So yeah, we started hooking up, but yeah, he was one of the first people who told me like, no, you gotta go get this tip off this can of paint in order to be able to make it not look so sloppy. You know, we became friends, we started linking up, we would skate together, we would go paint trains together, we would go paint walls together, go exploring abandoned buildings looking for spots to paint.
I met Seven first time was in Atlanta around 92, 93. I had a hip hop group in Atlanta called Y'all So Stupid, signed to Dallas Austin. And he was roommates with the DJ from my crew. It went from the tags, writing his name, he used to write Seven 1,000 million ways. They used to all look good, you know what I'm saying? And then when he started to go into things that, you know, like pictures you would hang on your wall and putting them on buildings and doing murals that people can gravitate to, that everybody stops to look at because it doesn't, you don't have to decipher it. You see it from far away. When he started doing that, like everything just took off for him.
There was a wall on Central Avenue. I had been looking at this wall for a few years, like, man, that would be a great wall to paint. So I went out there, halfway through painting this mural, dude, freaking cops rolls up. The owner of the gas station and the property owner, they come over. And I actually wasn't even painting graffiti or anything. I painted a rose for my mother because my mother passed away. I'm like, yo, I just really wanted to paint this beautiful picture for my mom, you know, and I show her the rose. So they take the cuffs off. They let me finish painting the rose and the rest is history. It's like I started painting that one wall for about maybe 5 or 6 years before I painted the Spider-Man mural. And it became like a famous spot for me. That's where my stuff really kind of started getting noticed. I became a graffiti writer as a result of already being an artist. Then once I got good at doing the graffiti, I was like, well, if I could do this, it's like, why don't I try painting this image of a dragon or this image of something else that's not letters, you know? And the more I did that, and the better I got at it, the more I realized like, wow, this is just as dynamic, if not more so, because everyone can appreciate this, you know? And now that I've been doing it for so long and it's so far along as far as being accepted, it's now become a lot easier for other artists to get involved and to do things, and more opportunities are becoming available for other artists to do murals around the city, and the perception of graffiti is kind of changing and it's becoming a little bit more accepted, but that's nationwide really, you know, it's just becoming a more popular thing now because it's pop culture now. It's not as underground as it used to be, you know, like everything that starts out underground becomes pop culture. Graffiti has become street art, you know, and everybody wants a piece of it, some kind of way.
He's from a time where it was pushed out, and now everybody accepts it everywhere, all over the world. It's not graffiti, it's not trash, it's not that. It's like people everywhere stop and looking. And they're painting art now. You know, now they're giving the room, and he's lived through the times to reap the benefits of it and also bring other people in. And that's great. Never forgets where he came from.
I don't know what it does when you stepping foot into a new city and you're from a place like Chattanooga where you're the first one doing murals on this type of scale from a grassroots level. That's what's really important to know, I think, about Seven, because we got to be clear, like, people of color really do get it out of the mud, and they really do have a grassroots effort around what they're doing, and how that happens is like straight out of his mind. It's, you know, even this project of Burning Bridges is bringing people in the world who never would have met and who never would have gotten together and who would have never come to Chattanooga. And not only is he bringing them here, but he's offering them space to leave their work behind in a way that is not only healing the environment, but it's also creating pride for your environment. You know, something I always see is people just driving down the street. A lot of people come by here just to smile. People come by to take pictures. People come by, you know, this has become a main tourist attraction without having tourism backing.
Honestly, I never thought that I could make a living as an artist. I was basically just like faced with the reality that I knew in order for me to be happy, that I was gonna have to find a way to do my art and make a living doing my art. We're in Chattanooga right now. Nobody else is doing this really. And I was just like, I'm that dude. Like I got the history, I got the background, I got the skills. And so I just was like, you know what, man, you can do it, you can do it. And I just started digging in, you know, just building that foundation when nobody else was really paying attention. I'm just like, okay, every opportunity I get, I'm putting something out there, you know, wherever, any, you know, whatever. And it was just like, dude, once I made that decision and just kind of opened myself up to the universe and to that possibility, everything just started rolling. Here we are, you know, I'm doing it, so.